Welcome to episode 33 of Chew on This, a Nerds United podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic. All right, well, we have a special podcast. We're doing a little intro here because we have John Marcotte from Heroic Girls website. And what that website is something that we're kind of all about right now, bringing diversity to all these geek and nerd things that are going on. And John specifically deals with female empowerment in the superhero geek nerd realm. And he agreed to do this interview a while back when we actually did the expo, but we had some unforeseen circumstances, and we actually got a full hour, a little bit over an hour with him, actually. And we actually wanted to wait to release the podcast for this week because Ghostbusters is coming out, and you can't get much more of a shitstorm on diversity and female empowerment in this geek nerd realm than what is happening to Ghostbusters.
Yeah, there was a lot of controversy when that movie was first announced that it would be 4 female leads, which I didn't have a problem with it. I thought that's a really cool change,
especially with the 4 women that they got too. I mean, they're probably the 4
man.
funniest women out there right now. So, and especially the director
Yeah.
they got. I mean, that guy knows how to direct comedy. So, there's a lot of things going on here with, the most hated trailer on YouTube, or the most hated video. It's kind of ridiculous because of the history of this, the director and this cast. I'm going to hold judgment till I see the movie this week coming out. So, I hope everybody enjoys this podcast because we go into a lot of depth about all kinds of diversity, not just females, but we do concentrate on Ghostbusters quite a bit in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a really, really cool, knowledgeable guy. I mean, I think he has girls like you do.
Yep.
And so this is a really good podcast for all you guys out there that have daughters or are really for more diversity in nerd and geek culture.
And even more so, why makes this special? John is actually going to see Ghostbusters with me this week because you are actually not going to be on the podcast next week to review Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it's going to be very odd. I'm going on my honeymoon a month later, but it's going to be very interesting listening to you guys while I'm in Hawaii on the beach. You guys podcast about Ghostbusters.
I'm pretty sure if your wife finds out that you're listening to a podcast while you guys are in Hawaii, you're going to get a shitstorm.
Yeah, well, I might have to go jogging on the beach, have some sound in my
fake
ears.
jogging for about 45 minutes to an hour.
Jogging. Just rent a cabana and sit there for an hour.
Yeah, just run by the pool for 5 seconds, just splash water in your face and shit, and make it look like you were running.
Yeah. But that'll be really interesting. But it'll be a treat. It'll be a treat to sit this one out and listen to you guys. And then I'll be back the following week for some more goodness.
All right. So we hope you guys enjoy this interview, and stay tuned next week for a special Ghostbusters review with John Marcotte.
All right, guys, enjoy. Introduce John Marcotte to the table.
That was your introduction?
I don't know. Well, because you said we can't do an intro until later, so
that's all right. So we have John here. He's the founder, right? The founder of Heroic Girls. He's got 2 daughters like me, and he's probably just as annoyed and as bothered by the fact that women. The way women are being represented in Hollywood and nerd and geek culture, which I was too, but I didn't feel that way when I didn't have 2 daughters. So when I was trying to find, things for my girls to wear, to play with, I was like, what the hell? How come there's nothing here for girls to play with? Everything is pink and purple, like your daughter said in the panel.
Yeah.
on Sunday. So, if you could tell a little bit about what Heroic Girls is to our
Sure.
listeners and how it came about.
Sure. Heroic Girls is an organization that I founded to promote like geek culture for girls. That's the good thing for girls and for women to get involved in geek culture. And I have two little girls, and they picked up all my bad nerdy habits. They love comic books. They love uh, comic book superhero television shows and movies. And we read The Hobbit together when they were barely old enough to understand what was going on. So yeah, they love all that stuff just the same way I did when I was a kid. And as a parent, much like you said, as they were getting older, you would try to buy them a T-shirt, and you couldn't find anything. Or if you could find a shirt that it was Wonder Woman, and they would go, Wonder Woman doesn't wear pink and purple. Why is it pink and purple? And because my kids were purists at a young age, they've already got geek snobbery. So I started writing a little bit about, my experiences that way, and got picked up by a couple feminist blogs. And then I'm a Huffington Post blogger now. I did a TED talk on why superheroes are good for little girls. And then I guess the most recent thing was I'm a 2016 He for She Champion for Change award recipient from the United Nations Women's Group, the San Francisco chapter. And so I started all that, and I built a website just as a place to house all these different things that had to do with my girls and geek culture. And it kind of built a community up around it. We have a Facebook group now of 10,000 people, mainly women, and a huge chunk of them are just older women that also love geek stuff and just have found this as a place that they like to talk about those things. So I'm weirdly at the center of this giant woman's movement for geek culture.
Well, I think that's great because when I saw the title in the expo when we were trying to figure out who we should go after to interview, yours stood out to me. And again, because I have two daughters too, and I thought you were perfect for everything that I was experiencing because through my personal Facebook page, I would always shout out like, "What the hell? I can't find anything." Like,
Yeah.
and I'm sure like, did you go see Star Wars with your
We did,
girls?
yeah, of course. That's
So
their Star Wars. I tried so hard to get them to watch. Of course, we didn't watch the prequels because they're horrible. But
that's good parenting right
that's
there.
good parenting right there. Keep it away from. But I started with Luke. I have illegally acquired the despecialized editions. The
Oh,
restored
yes,
copy.
yes, I have those
Oh,
too.
yeah. Those are
Han
awesome.
shoots first in my version. It's all been color corrected, beautiful. There's no CGI dinosaurs wandering through the scene. It's all the way that I remember from a little kid. And I was so convinced that this was going to be a big thing for my kids, and it really wasn't. They just never grabbed them the way that it did me as a kid. But the first time they saw the trailers and things for the new Star Wars Episode 7, they saw BB-8 and they saw Rey, and they were there. They were so excited. They were so into Star Wars. Now that was, Luke might be my Star Wars, but this is their Star Wars, and they're really, really excited and happy and into Star Wars culture now. This is what it took.
Did you? So for me, BJ's got all boys.
Okay.
Yep.
So he didn't have this like he still lost his shit when Ray got the lightsaber. But for
Oh,
me,
yeah.
it was personal. So
Right.
like when that lightsaber went into her hand and
Let's
she
define lost his shit, because that could mean a lot of different things.
well, it was well for me losing my shit was getting goosebumps
Right.
and my heart pounding
Right.
like it was like oh, the only thing it could have been different was that like it was an Asian guy getting the lightsaber.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it did feel like a transformative moment, because I mean, have you ever seen the supercut where they took the previous 6 movies and did every line of dialogue that a woman spoke that wasn't Leia?
No, I didn't.
You find it on YouTube.
No.
It is like 2.5 minutes long or something like that. I mean,
Oh, my
from,
gosh.
From 6 movies,
Right, right.
You do the original trilogy. I mean, I think Mon Mothma shows up, says 2 things. Aunt Beru's dead in 5 minutes, and that's it. It should.
I think Lando talks more.
Yeah, Lando definitely talks more, and it's
Holy cow.
when you look at it, I think that's much more than having Rey as the main character, which I love and I think was great, and also having John Boyega as a main character, huge steps forward. But I think even more important than that was when Chewie got hurt, he went, and the medic that helped him was a woman. and half the X-wing pilots seemed about like they were women, and just random people walking in the background. They previously Star Wars had created a universe where Leia may have been the only fertile woman in the entire galaxy, and now
She was like Smurfette.
she was like Smurfette, and now it feels like the world is much more complete and much more real. I mean, when the world reflects the real world a little better, even when you're talking about this high fantasy concept, it makes it feel more believable. Now you look around in the Star Wars world and you go, okay, there are men and women and different races, and the different races aren't just Wookiee and white. There's so it having set that kind of thing up really helps the world feel more real, even when you're talking about a fantasy world.
I think the closest to Asian in the original trilogy was like Nim. What's that guy's Nim Num? Nim
I know
Num.
what
It's Lando's co-pilot
Yeah.
in Jedi.
Nien
Yeah,
Num.
I know the one you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
exactly, BJ. I think that was the closest to like
Only action
Asian.
figure nerds are going to know that one.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not making fun of them because I have my own nerd shit, but that's not it.
Yeah. BJ, you had a couple things that you wanted to talk about with John about too.
Well, I was curious about heroicgirls.com. That's your website, correct?
That is my website, yes.
So I was curious to just like you kind of briefly talked about how that came about, but talk about like how it's kind of grown. I mean, you said you've grown a community.
Yeah.
You've also have something on there called the Cookie Project, I believe.
Sure.
And is that something, what could people do out there to contribute to this cause, or could you explain a little bit about that?
Well, I think, the big direction that we ended up kind of morphing into is kind of media criticism and toy criticism. When they come out with a movie and have slighted women and minorities, we call them on it. And, we started the Where's Ray hashtag campaign, or we were one of the people that did start it. I take it back.
Nice.
That was Jenna Bush over at Legion of Leia, and we jumped on because she asked us to. But we did start the Where's Natasha hashtag campaign when there were no Black Widow toys for Avengers Age of Ultron. And
Oh, cool.
that's the direction that we've moved in, which has attracted not only parents, but just women who are in geek culture. And one of the components, so you mentioned the Cookie Project, is we talk about being a hero in real life, that's important, not just to read heroic stories, but to be a hero. So this was something we were actually doing before the Heroic Girls was even a thing, but we rolled it in there. Every Christmas, we get dozens of people around town and bake thousands and thousands of cookies and put them in little bags, and we break up into teams, and on Christmas Day, we drive all over the city and deliver cookies to people who have to work on Christmas. And
wow.
we look for the shittiest job. Church's Fried Chicken is open every Christmas, and the people in there are just, I mean, let's be honest, it's miserable working at Church's Fried Chicken in the first. You're not even the good fried chicken place. You're like KFC, Popeyes, Church's, and so you're in the bottom of the fried chicken thing. And every time you go in there, there's nobody there. And so we try to find people that are just having miserable days. We go to movie theaters, fast food joints, people working at restaurants, grocery stores. And just because, they have to work on Christmas, it's kind of crappy, we're going to spread a little Christmas cheer. So that's a thing we've been doing like 6 or 7 years now. And, we're doing it before the Hero Girls. And then we decided, let's make that part of it. We can talk about being a hero in real life. And so that's one big thing that we do.
That's awesome.
I don't know if you know this, but BJ's Jewish, so none of that affects him.
That is
No. As long as it's kosher, yeah. We get kosher cookies. I'll be all right. But like if I was slinging like church turkey or church whatever
Church's
chicken, I would want you to bring me actual real chicken, because that would make me really happy with it.
I think if you dig through the breading, eventually you do find real chicken under there, but
right.
no one's ever taken the time.
No.
Yeah, people have actually asked that, said, well, what if the people are Jewish, or, what if, I live in South Sac and we're right next to Little Saigon, and they're like, there's all these pho restaurants which are just freaking awesome, and we actually go to one every year, our pho restaurant, and deliver cookies. And believe me, I don't think there is a practicing Christian in that entire place. It's packed, and nobody seems to care
No,
this Christmas. And people are, well,
no.
what happens then? I'm sitting there going, well, then you just did something nice for somebody, and it's not, even if it's not Christmas, you still did something nice for somebody. You
Right.
don't. This isn't like a. That somehow you're doing the wrong thing by giving somebody cookies if they don't care that it's Christmas. It's still nice. So, but in the fast food sector in particular, we find a lot of recent Hispanic immigrants and Christmas is a big deal to them, and they're stuck working at this crap job.
Right,
And
right.
Oh, yeah.
so we've
Yeah.
had people cry. We'll deliver cookies, and there will be like grown women crying because they were having this crappy Christmas and somebody remembered them. So it makes you
Oh,
feel
wow.
good.
That's great. So,
That's a
so
great.
is there a
That's
way to
great
donate?
cause, man.
There is a way. Well, we haven't really ramped up for that. That's a Christmas project.
No,
so
but like, is there a way to let people know and to check it out?
yeah, you should. Well, I mean, follow us on Facebook. That's the biggest thing. That's where we do all our talking and everything. If you want to talk about stuff we're doing right now, which we just are ramping up our summer reading program.
Okay.
We do that every year. If over the summer you read 6 graphic novels and write small, like 2-paragraph reviews, just kind of proving that you actually read the stupid thing,
Yeah.
for each of them, you'll get a prize pack. We get donated signed comics. Last year we got Kelly Sue DeConnick and Matt Fraction. The DeFraction household sent us signed copies of Sex Criminals and Captain Marvel, and we made sure we sent the Sex Criminals to an adult. And this year, I'm trying to remember who we have. We have a signed Captain Marvel #1 from Kelly Sue DeConnick that's going to go in there. We got
Oh, right on.
some Annie Wu signed some postcards for us. She had postcard print arts that we picked up from her at WonderCon. And then we're still getting more stuff in. We'll get it in all summer. But it's a way, if you have kids, you can encourage them to read over the summer, actually do a little bit of writing and keep their mind active. But it's fun reading, and
Yeah.
it's cool to write and talk about comic book stuff. And we also do it for grown-ups too. And it is from Heroic Girls, but we don't discriminate on gender. More women and girls participate, but we send out, prize packs to little boys and stuff too. We're not discriminatory that way, but girls have a harder time finding material where women are protagonists and girls are protagonists. That's a little tougher, and that's why we kind of are doing this outreach. But certainly, if you're a boy and you want to do it, that's perfectly fine. You can play along too.
Have you found that the beginning movement of your website was girls and nerd and geek culture? Have you found more recently that diversity has been a major thing as well, not just girls? It's been more than
Well, yeah. I mean, when we started, it was kind of narrow focused. It was, the way that I got into this is talking about my experiences as a parent raising girls. My wife is, well, I'm white. My wife is so white she's practically translucent. We're just not. we don't have a lot of personal experience to say about diversity. So it was hard to come from an authentic place. I could say these issues that affect women affect me because look at my kids. These other issues, it was hard for me to start. No one wants to see the white guy up there talking, what black people need to do. Just that doesn't work really well.
Right.
So
I feel the same way.
yeah, and so but as we went forward, they talk about intersectional feminism. That's what that means. It's when you talk about feminism is, women get picked on, and then if you're black and you're a woman, you get picked on way more than if you're white.
Right.
And the way that those, type of things play together, we just can't ignore it. So yes, we have definitely started talking more about race, about sexual orientation, a little bit about religion. We like talking about Kamala Khan because she's freaking awesome. All those things come into play. Certainly, our primary focus is on kind of feminism and issues regarding women. But like we just did an article on Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, which is this great all ages kids book that stars an African American high school girl who's a super genius and has a pet interdimensional Tyrannosaurus Rex. That's a mutant, and she can talk to. It's an awesome book, and so that was something I do look for those stories. Even though I may not have something that I can personally say about it because of the way my family happens to be structured. We try to find things that we're kind of pre-made stories that we can talk about to say, hey, here are some things that are happening. We did a meme when Star Wars first came out and was tearing up the box office. and I did I found a picture of Boyega and Daisy Ridley running into the one with the explosions behind
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
And I said that, Dear Hollywood, a movie starring a black man and a woman is about ready to break all box office records. Maybe something to think
Yeah.
about when you cast the next movie,
Right, right.
um, and that went fairly viral. And I can always tell when it goes viral. And we had like 1 million and something distribution on Facebook for that,
Oh
because
wow.
once you start spilling past the borders of my core group, is when you all of a sudden you hit like somebody in a men's rights activist organization will find it, and all of a sudden the trolls will just come swinging from the trees, and there's
Right.
nothing you can do. I mean, they want to argue, and they're not interested really in what you have to say. They just want to sit there and fight and wear you down. So you just gotta ignore them.
Yeah, basically spew hatred.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great segue because I wanted to talk about your panel, which I did actually. It was one of the very few panels I was able to attend on Sunday's Expo. But the
I'm
reason
glad
why
you were
we're
able
talking.
to get a seat.
I was glad I was able to go because of again the subject matter, because it is important to me,
Right.
again being the father of two girls. But what I thought was great about your panel was that it wasn't just about the girls. You definitely, that was definitely the main focus, like you said.
Right.
But you definitely switched it into diversity as a whole,
Right.
and not just that. So there's a couple of things I want to, people who couldn't make it, I want to just kind of talk
Sure.
about the things that you.
Are you gonna grill me on the Mandarin again?
No, but that's part of it.
All right, let's go.
But the first thing you started with was Gamergate, and I don't think a
Yeah.
lot of people understand or know what that is, and probably our listeners might not know. So if you could just briefly talk about what Gamergate was,
Sure.
and how messed up it actually
It's
is.
really hard to explain, because when you explain it, it sounds so stupid you can't believe it exists. But Gamergate started when there was this woman who's a programmer, and it's not Brianna Wu. I'm trying to remember the right programmer who kicked off Gamergate. Anita Sarkeesian's the other one, Brianna Wu, and okay, I'm gonna blank on the name, but there was a female programmer who wrote this game called Depression Quest, which won a lot of artistic awards for innovation in video games. She'd written this text-based game that was supposed to simulate what it's like to be suffering from severe depression. It is not a game,
Oh, wow.
obviously not a game that is going to topple Doom from the sales charts. It was more of an art game, so to speak. It's a proof of concept, an interesting idea. There were certain people that thought it, and so it won some awards on those basis, and it got mentioned favorably a few places. She had a boyfriend who, from all accounts, seems to be psychotic, and they broke it off. And he pursued her for a little while, and when she wouldn't get back together with him, he wrote this big treatise and posted it in several places on the internet, detailing her sex life and posting nude photos of her, and saying she slept with 5 different people in the gaming industry media in order to get positive reviews for her game. That she was sleeping with people. He named the reporters that had slept with her for her to get positive reviews on a game that, might I add, she's giving away for free. so, so here's what happened next. What happened next is that everybody it went like wildfire on the internet. The man babies on the internet who feel that women are stealing everything that's holy from them went crazy, because this is the proof they needed, that social justice warriors have co-opted the media, and that games that they don't like, the only reason that they get written about or that anybody buys them is because of this social justice agenda, not just that other people are entering the market and they like different things than they do. So they went nuts, and then other reporters started checking on this, and the 5 people that he said she slept with in order to get positive reviews, none of those reporters wrote reviews of her game at all. There were no reviews, and in a sane world, that should have been the end of Gamergate. But it didn't matter, because it's not about any real wrong. It's about their feeling of oppression and hatred. They just morphed into other things. She had death threats. She had rape threats. The most vile things that you can possibly imagine were directed at her. They swatted her, where they sent police to her house saying there was a bomb threat. They did all sorts of awful things to her, and so she had to actually move and go underground to hide from these people. And then other people got sucked into this as well. Brianna Wu was one. Anita Sarkeesian, who writes Feminist Frequency, which is a YouTube channel. where she does media criticism. She had written some things saying, there's misogyny in gaming culture. She would say, like, Grand Theft Auto is a great game, but the stripper thing, I mean, come on, guys, it's a little bit out there. And it wasn't like she was saying burn all the
Yeah.
copies of Grand Theft Auto 5. She's saying, let's just talk about that. If that's the kind of culture out there, if we're trying to bring women into gaming, which is what we say we're trying to do, is this a good way to go? Because there are other things we could do better. But, these guys get really upset when any of their, ideas get challenged. So, yeah, it morphed into this horrible movement that raged on for a year and a half or so, just where they're just tracking down any women that disagree with them on the internet. And they say it's about ethics in gaming journalism. That's what they came up with. But the point of fact was they really focused on attacking these 3 or 4 women, and not a single one of them was a journalist. They were all developers and social commentators. If the woman really slept with 5 men to get those positive reviews, you should have been after those guys as unethical journalists. But they didn't care about them. They just wanted to trash this
Right.
woman for that. And they doxed her. They published home addresses. Felicia Day, Felicia,
Yep.
wonderful paragon of geek virtue, wrote a small thing on the internet saying that, before Gamergate, I used to just, when I would see somebody walking down the street in like a Warcraft t-shirt or something, say, hey, it's one of my people. And, I'd feel good. And now she said,
Yeah.
it gives me a little pause because there's all these guys out there doing awful things. And they went, within a half hour, they went nuts on her in the comment, and someone had doxed her. They published her home phone number and her home address in there as if to prove, they're mad at her for saying that they do awful things, and then they did the awful thing that she was,
Right.
insinuating in the thing. And they do the no true Scotsman thing. Whenever you try to pin them down, they say, "Oh yeah, but those guys aren't real gamers." How do you know Gamergate guys did that? I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure it's just some guy walking by Felicia Day's blog and decided to do that." It's just a massive misogyny and hate, and it was one of the most vile things to ever happen on the internet. They're still kind of active, but just the fire burnt out. I think a lot of them have shifted their chips over to hating Ghostbusters now. So
Right. I mean, that's the other half of it too. Is
yeah,
you know so much about it because that's the world that you live in too,
Yeah.
and in the gaming world too. But even on the mainstream media or mainstream gaming culture,
yeah,
they didn't really report on any of that stuff. You had to actually read into it and actually want to learn more about it to know the amount that you would know if it
Yeah.
really bothered you. And that's the
It's
other
tough.
problem
I mean,
with it too.
I think some of the people that, if you want to find out about Gamergate, you needed to watch like a John Oliver, somebody like that. A comedian who has a hard news bent will actually dig in there and show you how awful it is, because mainstream news is just not equipped to deal with these people. And they didn't like one of the websites that supported the reporter and said he did nothing wrong. So they organized campaigns to call all the advertisers on the site and get them to yank their advertising. They tried to shut down the website by brigading and calling intel and saying these guys do all these awful things and you got to pull your advertising, and they succeeded to a certain extent. That's the kind of thing that was happening. Anybody who tried to stand up to them, they would just try to smash in the most unethical ways you could possibly imagine. These guys that are so, upset about ethics, were trying to just silence anybody in any way they could that disagreed with them. And it's an awful, awful movement, and it really shows the hideous underbelly of the internet in a way that is kind of surprising. If you want to read the real scoop, Wikipedia actually got it pretty much right and then locked the crap out of the page because they were changing it every 5 minutes. But read the Wikipedia entry on Gamergate and just be shocked and amazed at how awful people on the human beings can be to one another.
So, if hypothetically, if we were to sleep with 4 or 5 of all of our listeners, that to boost reviews or ratings, that would be a bad thing or a good thing? I mean, we're dudes.
Well, because we're
So,
guys, I think what he's saying is because we're guys, it wouldn't matter. We'd probably be praised for it.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I don't think anybody would come after you for that. But
Yeah.
I think that's one issue.
For a free podcast.
It would give
It didn't matter free. I mean, they want to couch it in terms that they thought there was some, ethical problem that happened there. But really what it comes down to is that they don't like the kind of games that are coming out. They don't like that games that are not oriented at kind of a 12-year-old boy mentality. Because I mean, who doesn't Duke Nukem, games like that, Grand Theft Auto? I play those games. They're great games, but you got to admit they're a bit juvenile. And when people say, "Hey, what if we expand gaming in this way, or we do this artsy game where there's no real objective and you just kind of wander around," and some of those are kind of cool, and you're saying, "Hey, video games can be an art form. They can do more than just kind of titillate, so to speak." And it's like if some art house movie like I don't know what's some like cruddy, well, not cruddy, but like some tower theater type movie.
Like The English Patient.
The English Patient. It's like if
Yeah.
the English Patient came out and there were all these dudes with drinking beers and with their shirts off in lawn chairs protesting in front of it because they thought if the English Patient won an Academy Award, that meant that they would never make another Transformers film. That's really what Gamergate is.
Oh my God! Please, please, God, don't make another Transformer film.
I'm with you like that, but that's what they feel is that if these artistic games get attention and people say that they're good, they feel that somehow that's going to stop them from making giant blockbusters, and that's just so not going to happen. It's not. And this is what happens. The geeks won, man. We have won. It used to be that just sweaty nerds that lived in their mom's basement liked this stuff. And now, the Avengers opens and it makes $1 billion, and half the audience is women, and they're saying, "Hey, we like this stuff too." And so now you have them in the room, and you can't just be like guys who can't get dates, stuff that they like when they're whacking off with a sock after they just played the last Tomb Raider. You got to expand the audience a little bit.
And that stuff sells really fast too. I mean, you can't find a lot of original Rey figures anymore.
No,
because when the Star Wars night hit for the toys, Rey wasn't a huge deal. I mean, people bought her, but they didn't buy. She wasn't crazy. And then when the movie hit and realized who she was, if you had one of those first released Rey figures, you were making bank because Star Wars did not tell you
in the box.
Yeah, yeah.
But here's the thing: is that back in the 1970s, the toy aisle, when you went down it, there were, let's say there's 10 toy aisles in a store. 8 of them in the 70s would have just been toys that were good for boys and girls. They weren't labeled at all. And then there'd be like one aisle with some G.I. Joes and one aisle with strawberry shortcake or something like that, and that was it. Today, it's a 50-50 split. Half the toys are definitely girl toys, and half the toys are definitely boy toys. I mean, if you want to buy like a ball to play with your kid, it's a pretty good chance it'll either have a Transformer or a Disney princess stamped on it. They just gender everything. So action figures are a boy thing. That's what they've decided. So they don't know. They've never proven that girls will buy action figures. So when they came out with Rey, they said, well, the boys won't buy the girl ones, and the girls aren't going to go in that aisle to find them. So nobody's going to buy female action figures. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, kind of. So that happens all the time. And if you're a parent like I am or Vic is, where you're saying, hey, I have 2 girls, and you go looking for that Black Widow action figure, even if they make so few of them that fat nerds camp out in Target and buy the things right when they unpack them and go keep them in the box to keep them mint. Good luck getting one for a little kid to play with because that just doesn't happen. So
no.
But I think the dam has broken on that because DC did their DC superhero girls this last summer. They couldn't get, I don't think the big toy distributors interested, so they made an exclusive deal with Target. There's only one store you can buy it at, and Target cannot keep them on the shelves. It's a line of female action figures and dolls centered around DC's female heroes like Wonder Woman and Supergirl and Batgirl. And they're literally selling out all over the place. If you can find one of the Wonder Woman figures, eBay it, you'll triple or quadruple your money just easy.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, in fact, I pretty much know that Marvel and Disney over there are looking at that going, okay, how do we do something similar? There are people in the industry that I've talked to that said, Marvel's going to probably try to do something like that too. So I think it's coming one way or the other.
I think that's probably the only thing that DC is beating Marvel at right now.
Yeah.
Because I was really annoyed for the longest time. I couldn't find any Star Wars stuff for girls.
Right.
I couldn't find any Marvel stuff for girls, but I could always find Supergirl, Batgirl, even pajamas and stuff. Like my daughter has Batgirl and Supergirl pajamas, but if and shirts. They
Yeah.
always have the Wonder Woman shirts and stuff like
Well,
that too.
we're sitting here and we have these kids and we say our kids love this stuff. We need this stuff to be out there. So we push and push for it. And they're saying we've never proven that this market exists. If they all of a sudden just did equity, there's going to be the same number of female action figures as there are for boys. They could end up just taking a bath. No one would buy the stuff. So they're being cautious, and that's the push and pull here. Is we got to keep pushing for them to do more. And as they do more, you got to buy it. And when it sells out, that says, okay, next time we're going to do a little more. It's frustrating when you're on the end where you're saying, I can't find the damn toys because you're not making enough. But I do understand that they're being a little timid and they don't want to just go full bore into this market, believing that our daughters are typical and that every little girl is going to want this stuff.
Well, I think it was frustrating. It was frustrating for me because me and BJ went to the previous Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah.
And as you know, because you should know because you're in this culture with us, that Kathleen Kennedy, is the president of Lucasfilm now, and she made it a point at the celebration to say, you're going to get the female characters that you've been waiting for.
Yeah.
So when Star Wars came out and Rey was the Jedi, it was great for me, but I was like, why is there no shit for the girls?
Well, I can tell you that. It's because Kathleen Kennedy is completely right, and she's over there at Lucasfilm. And the toys are getting made and licensed from Disney Consumer Products, which is on the campus, but it's about a mile away in a completely different building. And, Kathleen Kennedy is not the one checking off and approving toys. It's not her or J.J. Abrams. It's a bunch of people that are in charge of making toys. And, a company like Hasbro, who has the license to make most Star Wars stuff, Disney makes a little bit on their own. They have, if you go to their website, you can click, do you want a toy for a boy or a girl? And if you click on girl and then you type in Rey, nothing comes up. I think there's a My Little Pony that shows up because it has the letters REA in it. Because Star Wars Star Wars is boys. They don't consider the idea that girls would be into Star Wars. Still, that's today. So, that's the mindset that you're fighting and when they do it, they have a girl and a boy marketing team. So they hand Star Wars to the boy team and they're saying, we're selling to boys and boys don't want the girl action figures, so we're not going to make them. So the whole system has to change. And then even if they made it, when they go to the stores had divided the aisles to boy and girl. So where do you put something that's supposed to be for both? They don't have a place for it. It's, it's a bunch of interlocking pieces and it's hard to get all of them pointed in the right direction to make things happen at the same time. But, I think we're slowly chipping away at it. I mean, stuff like DC Superhero Girls is going to be a huge step forward. The fact that it proved that there are tons of girls that have just pent up demand. They're like, God damn it, give us this stuff.
Right,
and it flew off the shelves. And I think we're going to see more.
We're going to see more. The clothing, I mean, at least has really taken off. I mean, we saw Her Universe. Actually, I saw that, I think, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah,
and then now it's pretty prevalent now at all the Comic-Cons and the celebrations and all that.
Yeah, Her Universe is great stuff, but you need it in Target. My kid's never going to go to a Her Universe. Well, actually, my kid will go to a Her Universe fashion show, but other people's kids are not going to go to Her Universe fashion shows.
Hot Topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Hot Topic, yeah. Well, that kind of brings us what's going on.
Sorry, BJ. The thing with Her Universe, which I love, all their stuff, like my daughter has that awesome black Star Wars T-shirt with the letters made out of the lightsabers. The problem is the market is so small that I feel like Her Universe jacks up their prices a little bit.
Well, they're a boutique. I mean, when you're Target or Kmart, you're buying hundreds of thousands or millions. Her Universe, when you're making smaller quantities and you're trying to make nicer shirts or nicer products, that means the prices also go up and your profit margins have to be higher because you're not Target. So
that's true.
It's more expensive for them to buy. They have to make more per unit. They have to do everything mail order. There's a lot of, they don't have the efficiency of scale of being, Kohl's or Target where they're buying in huge quantities to drive it down. So Her Universe is great because you can get cool stuff that not every other kid in school is going to have, or if you're a geek woman and you just want to wear something that is a little nicer than some crummy shirt that you bought for $7.50 at Target because it was on sale. Her Universe is the place to go.
Well, we've talked about your website a little bit. We've talked about gaming. We've talked about clothing and toys and all that. I want to talk a little bit about movies now.
All right. I like movies.
especially there's a few of them coming out in the near future. First one being Ghostbusters, and I can't believe that when that trailer came out, the amount of negativity toward it, and not even because I mean I had negativity toward it too, but not because of the women. I absolutely loved when I heard the cast. I was so
Yeah.
excited because the director, the writer, the cast are phenomenal, and
Yep.
they've proven that before. What I was annoyed of was something completely different. It's just the fact that there's no continuity. It's just a complete reboot, and I was annoyed by that. I've explained all that before,
Yeah.
but all the negativity about the females being the lead roles, I don't understand that. I
Well,
think.
it's
Well, try to. So, do you have any kind of like? I'm sure you have some sort of insight or something that you can maybe explain. Like,
well, I
why
mean,
is that?
it's that same portion of geek culture that gave us Gamergate. It's the exact same type of thinking that women are somehow taking away things from men by entering these spaces that have traditionally been male dominated. You know, the hatred did not start with the trailer. It started when they announced that it was a female cast. That's where it started, and it was massive. And then when the trailer came out, they said, "Oh, look, we can have a reason now." And then they started nitpicking the trailer.
Yeah.
And and now a ton of them are about half of them are claiming to have seen some secret screening on the studio. I'm like, oh bullshit, you didn't see the movie. You just know that the fact that you're
Bandwagon.
trashing a movie that you haven't seen is indefensible. So you have to lie and tell us that you saw it because that way your opinion actually means something. So yeah, I mean Ghostbusters. What we hear is, oh, they're remaking a classic, and I'm just against that. It's a great thing. I don't like reboots or remakes. I'm like going, well, maybe you should have said that when they rebooted Batman for the 4th time this last summer, or Spider-Man's on its 3rd reboot.
Right.
These are classic movies too. There are tons of reboots. I mean, the new Star Wars was a completely new creative team out of Lucas's hands. It could be seen as a reboot. And there are all sorts of reboots that have happened here and there that didn't get this just fire and hell, fire and brimstone from hell.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters is because they're women, and they will not admit it. The same way that Gamergate would never admit that it wasn't about ethics in journalism. It's that they hated women entering their market. So you'll hear a lot about how social. I mean, if you read the comments under some of this stuff, you'll hear over and over again. Well, it's like it's a feminist plot. They think feminists have taken over Hollywood, which, based on the pay discrepancy that women get in Hollywood, I would say is not the case. But they think that there's this giant conspiracy to force moral messaging in there and what it comes down to is they don't think women are good enough to have earned the places in these movies on their own. They want to say they're not misogynistic, but that's really what it comes down to. It said there's no way that Melissa McCarthy could have gotten this movie just because Spy and The Heat and Bridesmaids were huge hits with Paul Feig, and she's a really funny woman. It has to be that social justice warriors are forcing them to put women in movies because we all know women aren't funny and women aren't as good as the men. And that's really what the message is, although they will deny it up and down the block. But that's what they're mad about.
Right.
And, the fact that the hate started so far in advance before anybody had seen a frame of the trailer, it makes it really hard to take them seriously at this point. And it's the most downvoted and disliked video in YouTube history. And
That's what I heard.
They're saying, well, it's just not a very good movie. I'm like, did you see the fucking Fantastic Four? And this is the most downvoted movie.
Or any Transformers movie.
Transformers movies are horrible. I'm glad that Michael Bay has finally found his niche, which is 12-year-old boys that like to see turtles talk. And I'm like, good, you guys go do that together.
What's crazy is that he's not even directing that.
Isn't he?
No, he's just a producer, and it feels like he got like a little Michael Bay Jr. to direct it.
I saw Megan Fox interviewed one time, and she's actually a very nice woman. I like her. She cannot act her way out of a paper bag, and I just feel bad when it's like I'm watching the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the new one, out of the sewers or whatever the hell it is, and she's in there and she's April O'Neil, and she does something, and then all of a sudden she's like, I better get in my hooker outfit, and she like ties the shirt up under her breast and everything.
Right.
I'm like, who the hell is this movie for? It's like horny 12-year-olds. That's what we're aiming for.
Exactly.
I am baffled by it.
Yeah, I think for me for the Ghostbusters movie, I started not liking the idea only because they were rebooting it and not continuing the story had been forever. And this is before anybody was cast in it.
Well, here was the thing is that They tried to get Bill Murray's to do Ghostbusters 3
Right.
for 30 years.
Yeah,
And he
exactly.
said no. And
Yeah.
I mean, I argued with a guy on the internet that said that they wouldn't let them do Ghostbusters 3 with men and that Murray wanted to do it. I'm like, you are so full of crap. So for prove it, I'm
Yeah.
like, here's his interview in Variety. Here's another one. Bill Murray says no, don't want to do Ghostbusters 3. So, and the other guys didn't want to do it without him. And then, we had one of the Ghostbusters died. And it was just kind of over at that point. The guys did not want to get back together and to have like two Ghostbusters handing the torch over or something. That was never going to happen. So, I mean, it's a perfect candidate for a reboot. Ghostbusters 2, honestly, was not very good at all.
No, it was
and
not.
It's a movie. It's a movie that's 30-something years old. There's no chance the original cast is ever going to get back together and do that. And so, it's going to be a reboot in some fashion anyways. You could say, oh, these are the successors of the original Ghostbusters.
I think I was okay with that because like you were saying with Spider-Man and Batman, it's almost like a James Bond to me with those characters where I feel like we're so new into the Marvel, the MCU that eventually Iron Man and all these other characters will have to be, recasted or whatever. James Bond has always been recast. And for Ghostbusters, it's one of those things where it was like an original property. It wasn't like 50 years of comic books.
Right.
And Ghostbusters was his own thing. And you're right, Ghostbusters 2 wasn't very good.
Yeah.
But Ghostbusters
That's why Bill Murray
1
was never
yeah, exactly.
do it again. He didn't like Ghostbusters
because they
2
still never cleaned up the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
So but Ghostbusters 1 was so good that it kind of makes up for how bad Ghostbusters 2 is.
Well, that's the thing, that's the lesson to learn. Is if this movie sucks, and I don't know, I haven't seen it. I'm not out there like saying this movie's going to be the best thing ever.
Right.
I like Paul Feig, and his work with Melissa McCarthy has been very funny up until now. I expect it will continue, but I haven't seen the movie, so I'm not going to sit there.
And that's how we are too. Like,
Right.
as much as I don't like the fact that it's a complete reboot, my opinion about it has nothing to do that it's these women because, I mean, we've talked about it before where it was like, well, look at their history.
Yeah.
Look at these people together in a movie.
Right.
Look at their history of how much money they've made in just comedies.
But I want to go back to what you said there. You said, Ghostbusters 2 wasn't very good, but the first one just made up for it because it's so good. And you can just pretend the second one doesn't exist. We're in exactly this position. If this movie is hilarious, it's a great addition to the Ghostbusters canon.
Right.
If it's not very good, well, who cares? No one's going to force you at
I
gunpoint to see it.
I just hope that I just hope that the people that made the trailer just they're I don't know. The people that made the trailer are not very good trailer people. At least I hope so, because the gags and stuff that they do in the trailer are absolutely horrible. They're stuff that we've seen a million times. And then part of the trailer looks like they borrowed from the first movie, which if you're going to reboot something, do something completely different.
Well,
don't.
Yeah. I think that they have some callbacks to the movie, but they have an original plot. And when they're putting the trailer out there, they're trying to appease fans and try to figure out what will get people into theater. They're going to put a couple of those callbacks to the movie. I don't think it's going to be some rehash. I think we're in a whole different area and space. Even the thing that looks like the Stay Puft, it's not him. If you take another look at it, it's something else. But, so I think we're going to get a different Ghostbusters than we got before. I have faith in the people, and I'm just a big fan of let's just wait until the damn thing comes out before we break out the pitchfork and torches. I hated the teaser trailer. I didn't think it was very good. The newer trailer I thought was a little better. I do think it's hard to see the trailer with clear eyes at this point because of this massive amount of controversy around it that's built up. There's all this huge pressure that shouldn't be on there. But I didn't think the trailer for The Heat looked very good, and I laughed my ass off on that.
I actually got the opposite reaction from the two trailers. I didn't mind the first trailer.
Yeah.
I really didn't mind it. I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, that's kind of what I expected.
Yeah.
The second trailer had me a little bit worried because it was almost to me like they didn't do too much to fix the first trailer. But again, my argument for all of this hatred is how can you hate on something or the people that are in this movie that have been so successful at what they've done, and then you go out there and defend the shit out of Zack Snyder?
Man.
So like
there's
there's
talking about people that shouldn't be allowed to reboot
so
properties.
Right, exactly. So me and BJ, like I said BJ, and at the end of the day, we are both in agreement that like these people have a history of doing really good stuff.
Yeah, I want to
Maybe
see what
the
they're gonna
trailers
do.
suck.
I have faith. I mean, Paul Feig is a guy that did Freaks and Geeks, one of the most brilliant TV shows that's been done in the past few years. His movie comedies have been uniformly good. Melissa McCarthy with him, the movies that she's done that I don't care for are the ones she goes off and does with her husband, who seems like a very nice man. But that's where you get Tammy, and I'm trying to remember what the other one are. The movies that you don't like from Melissa McCarthy are the ones she doesn't make with Paul Feig. When those two get in a room together, they elevate each other's game, and it's very, very funny.
Spy was theirs, right?
Spy was theirs, yeah.
Spy,
The
fucking
Heat,
hilarious.
and Bridesmaids are the three that
Spy
they did
was
together.
one of the better, Spy to me was. Not a lot of people like this movie. I love Spies Like Us.
A lot of people like Spy. Spy did.
No, I meant Spies Like Us.
Oh, Spies Like Us.
And it reminded me of like a comedy action. Like not a lot of people like Spies Like Us, but I do. And I thought
I still remember
Spy,
the theme song. Hey, what's all of us? Ain't nobody spies like us.
It's got one of my most. It's got one of my most favorite lines or most ridiculous lines in all of comedy is.
You got a tent?
Oh, no, it's when they get into the all the like the ninjas or whatever are surrounding them, and Chevy Chase in like deadpan serious looks at him. He's like, "Stop, and I'll bring back the sun."
I do remember that. There's also every minute you don't tell me what I want to know, I cut off a finger. Mine or yours? There's a lot of funny. I like Spies Like Us.
Spy got so fast forward to Melissa McCarthy's Spy got me. When the whole like they got Jude Law to be like completely ridiculous, like opposite of a leading man, like he's actually not as great. And
what's his face? Handsome Rob there, the transporter.
Jason Statham.
Yeah, Jason Statham. Just cranking the Jason Stathamness up to like 14. He was hilarious.
He was
able to poke fun at himself.
Great.
But so it's funny because Spy was But when you look at it, though, it's a woman that has been undervalued her whole life. When you look at it, she graduated top of her class, and they stuck her behind a desk, and she never even had an opportunity. And so she had lost all her self-confidence until she just had to do it. And then she's a badass. It was awesome.
Right. Yeah, it was great. Spy, if you haven't seen it, Spy is a great movie. Go out and watch it. Good. Really quick, I want to discuss two movies combined because they kind of have the same issue.
Sure.
And we have dedicated a diversity issue to these two movies.
Yep.
But I wanted to get your opinion on it. Is Doctor Strange and the Ghost in the Shell, and if you could really quickly just go over those two and your opinion about what's going on with those movies.
Doctor Strange. There were a couple interviews from the writer and things like that who said that, well, we changed it so it was a woman. That checks off some other diversity box. So, no matter what we did, people were going to yell at us. I'm like, no, that's not actually true. When you're talking about leads for non-white people in Hollywood, they're few and far between. And when you take a role that was designed for another race that is not white and convert it to white, you're taking away one of the few opportunities that exist for these actors and actresses out there. And superhero movies have done it quite a few times. They did it with Bane from
Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight Rises. He's Hispanic in the comics. And instead, he's I don't know what accent that is, but it's definitely not Hispanic. It's something Tom Hardy invented. They've over and over again, they've taken characters that are historically different races, and they've made them. I mean, the entire cast of The Last Airbender, pretty much the entire cast.
Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3. They did, the Mandarin. We talked about the Mandarin. I always thought, the Mandarin was so racially problematic historically in the first place, and the fact that the way that they wrote him in this was that, I don't want to give away stuff from Iron Man 3. I have less problem with that than I do all the other ones we're talking about.
I think if they made the same kind of BS excuse about putting Tilda Sweden in it, that they tried to actually fix the Mandarin, then I think it could have been the same thing.
Well, the Band-Aid was the Marvel one shot where they said there's a real Mandarin out there. But I mean, the entire point was that when you got down to it, Kingsley was never supposed to be the real Mandarin or a believable Mandarin. Even he was just it was supposed to be all dog and pony show, and they just hired an actor. And the fact that he was so not the Mandarin was part of the joke. So I don't know. But
it didn't work.
When we're talking about they changed the Ancient One, who is historically been from Tibet, and they made him Celtic. They said that fixed it. You said, oh no, you misunderstand. We're not we're not taking a role away from an Asian actor. Is that now this is a handed down position? This Ancient One is from Ireland, I guess. So and I guess you could that there's logic there, I guess, but it's bullshit. It's just complete bullshit. It's just you're saying that yeah, but we wrote it so it's not Asian, so that's okay. No, that's not okay. It's a character from the comics that has been Asian since its inception until today, and you changed it for the movie away from being Asian. And Ghost in the Shell is even more atrocious because it's based on classic Japanese manga and anime, and they cast Scarlett Johansson as what's her major. I'll butcher the last name because I don't remember the
Yeah,
syllables.
basically they. So what I read
Yoko
today
or
is
something? I'm trying to remember what her last name
it's
is.
basically a Japanese. You can't get much more Japanese.
No, you
name
can't
than-
get much more Japanese.
But I read today that her character's name will now only be called Major.
Of course. Well, that's their fix. But I mean and when we talked about how when we talk about soft bigotry, like we were talking about that a little bit in the toy aisle. The reason they're not pumping it full of action figures for little girls is that they're not sure that'll make money and they're scared. So they err on the side of screwing little girls over out of action figures. That's the same thing that happens in Hollywood when they're casting these roles. They go, well, Scarlett Johansson's going to put butts in the seat. We know that. She's a huge actress. So if we cast some Asian actress, there's no one even close to Scarlett Johansson's importance. So we're not going to give that opportunity to an Asian actress. And what they don't realize is because they're continuously denying Asian actors and actresses opportunities to be in movies, no one will ever be as big as Scarlett Johansson because you don't let them be in the damn movie. So
That's right.
You got to give somebody a chance. And so, there are it's an untapped talent pool. There are lots of people of color, Asian actors, Hispanic actors. Anybody who's not, named Norm Peterson pretty much in Hollywood is sitting there going, God damn it, they just cast a movie and, people like John Cho or Constance Wu from
Fresh Off the Boat.
Fresh Off the Boat. My God, I would marry that woman. I'm just saying right now because my wife probably won't listen to the podcast. I will marry Constance Wu if the opportunity comes up. So that girl's on my list. But she is so funny and so talented. And when you look at there have been several black women that have won Academy Awards that then end up back on television. And Angela Bassett ended up in American Horror Story. I was trying to remember. Alfre Woodard has been back on TV. There have been numerous.
Isn't Halle Berry on TV?
Halle Berry's
too?
on TV now. She was in. What was she in? Yeah, Halle Berry did a TV show, and I don't remember what it was because it wasn't very good. Because that's kind of what Halle Berry's at. But if you look at a white actor that wins an Academy Award, that just they're off like a rocket. Right. And there are so many people of color that have won major awards, and you just never hear from them again because they don't get that opportunity to do something else good, to do something else great. So, I mean, Hollywood has a problem. I think it's not the kind of racism where it's like, I don't want, black people eating at the dinner table with me. I think it's the kind of racism where it's like, well, the guy that gave me my job, who was born in 1948, says that white people won't go see movies if they have Asian leads, and it won't make money. So if I risk all the studio's money on some movie with an Asian lead and it doesn't make money, I'll go lose my job. I know it's safe to pick a white actor, and that's what they do. They're just being safe.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just got to put your balls on the line to do the right thing, and this is definitely the case. They need to start, betting on that we're better as a people than the fact that we'll only watch white people on screen.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because you're somebody like Marvel and Disney who has been trying to be as diverse as possible. If you're not one of the top non-white races, basically, you're not gonna see it very much. And because I mean, you could not have gotten better. Like the two characters that really stood out in Civil War were, of course, Spider-Man, but the other one was Black Panther.
Oh, God, did they launch him so well?
Yeah.
Do you need a backstory? No, I don't need a backstory.
No, I mean, everything that you knew about him, you found it was, and great storytelling too.
Great storytelling, visual storytelling, and
like the father relationship.
Yeah.
Just 5 minutes, like barely 5 minutes. You knew everything you needed to know about them right then and there.
You got to give it up to the Russos for juggling literally like 13 storylines and making them all work.
And then all of a sudden, they, the BJ, what's the name of the guy that's directing the Black Panther movie?
Oh, it's Ryan Coogler who did
Right.
Creed.
Yeah,
Right.
he did Creed and he did Fruitvale Station.
Right.
He's a great director.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's just knocking out of the park. Like he's got all these A-list
Well,
black
he got
actors.
Michael B. Jordan because he just follows him around.
Right,
pretty much.
but still, that's a great
God.
cast.
Oh, he's one of my favorite. When
a
he was
huge
cast as the Human
cast.
Torch, I
Huge
was
cast.
so excited. I didn't know what the movie was going to be yet, but he was so perfect for Johnny Storm. He's one of the Evans did a great job. It's one of the things that really worked in the original.
Yeah.
But when they cast Michael B. Jordan, I went, "Oh, he's going to be awesome at it." And he might have been, but no one knows because no one actually saw the movie because it was awful.
Yeah, I mean that's always the case. Like you take like great actors and actresses, and you
can't
put them
save
in,
them.
and you put them in front of the camera with a bad director,
Right.
And it just sucks.
Well, I don't want to say bad director. Josh Trank, who did that, did Chronicle right before that, which
but that was
I really liked.
only one movie. He didn't
was-
have a history of great movies.
No, I think that they took him on the basis of one movie and they just gave him no supervision. He had never done a movie with that kind of budget. They didn't give him any help. I mean, Marvel, that's why some directors leave, like Edgar Wright is tired of them looking over his shoulder and saying, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? But somebody like Josh Trank there could have really used that. If he had them helping him along a little bit and keeping him on path, I think he could have ended up with a better movie.
He probably didn't help too much with his mouth and his attitude either.
No, he was I mean, it got done. They knew it was going to be a disaster. They took it out of his hands, completely re-edited it so it wasn't the movie he was hoping to make. Then put it out there, and then everybody pointed a finger at him. He didn't handle it very well, but I think that's a situation the studio kind of created, and I hope that he comes back, does some indie movies, proves his credit again, does something else, and just buries this thing and pretends it never happened.
Well, Fox has been notorious with, or any property outside of like Marvel and Disney has been notorious for just, ruining movies before they even come out, with the decisions that they make.
Well, I mean, got to give it up for Sony with Spider-Man. They proved that superhero movies work, and right before that, actually, I'll take it back. 20th Century Fox, same studio, did the X-Men films, which also kind of like made the modern superhero movie possible. And then they did Daredevil, and we're not going to talk about that. But they're, it wasn't Marvel right out of the gate that started making these movies showing that they couldn't be done.
but for every Bryan Singer, you get a Tim Story.
Yeah.
And you get more Tim Stories, you get more Green Lanterns than you do. And it goes back
Green
to
Lanterns,
that.
that's Warner Bros. They actually own the property. That's their own damn fault. Nobody
Yeah,
ruined their movie.
But with
big time.
but with what you were saying with going back to the whole women thing is nobody's gonna go see a woman movie. They all suck. I'm like, no, that's because you hired really bad people to do these movies.
yeah.
Like Catwoman is fucking terrible.
Yeah.
But if you put Christopher Nolan behind the camera and you tell me he's gonna do Catwoman,
Yeah.
or Joss Whedon is going to do Catwoman, I'm gonna go fucking see that movie.
It is hilarious. That is one of the things. It actually, when the Sony email hack happened, they leaked all these internal emails from Sony executives, and one of the things that leaked was Ike Perlmutter, the CEO of Marvel, had emailed Sony and told them not to do a female-centered spin-off of Spider-Man they were considering because female superhero movies don't work. This is the CEO of Marvel telling him this, and he made a list of like Catwoman, Elektra. What's hilarious is he spelled Elektra wrong. He's the president of Marvel. He doesn't know how to spell his own superhero. But Supergirl. And in every single case, though, you look at those movies and you go, they had a no-name director, a no-name scriptwriter. They spent a fraction of the money that they do on a movie for a male superhero. And my point would be is if you spend a ton of money and you make a female protagonist and you spend a lot of money and you put a good director on it and a good script writer and you really work it with the studio the way it's supposed to be, you end up with Terminator 2 with Linda Hamilton. That's what, or Aliens. Or anything
Or,
pretty much.
Jessica Jones.
Jessica Jones. If you actually treat it serious and try to do a good job, people will go see those movies. But the problem is you keep doing a shit job because you convince yourself they're not going to make money and that it'll be bad, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You just end up with a bad product because you didn't put any effort into it.
It's like the people who did Catwoman had never read a comic book.
No.
That is actually kind of fun. It's just so far out there. It's just like, I have no idea what they were doing. It's not as fun as Batman and Robin. Batman and Robin is my favorite bad superhero movie with George Clooney running around in a movie that makes no sense. None whatsoever. Nipples on the bat suit, man. That's the best thing ever.
So right now we want to get into what we call the big finish. So we're just going to ask you a few questions.
Sure.
Right now, what is your all-time favorite character? Can be from any genre.
Oh crap! These are the kind of impossible questions. I'll name something, and then on the way home, I'll think of 4 other characters I like more. I mean, it's a bullshit question. I'm going to say it right now. But let me think. I'm going to go with because I've had it in my pocket for a long time. I was a Spider-Man guy when I grew up. I think there are a couple ways that people my age got into comics. It's either Spider-Man, the X-Men, or Batman. Those are the three. I'm Spider-Man. I loved Spider-Man because he was a hero. When Batman goes out and fights crime and gets beat up and everything like that, he comes home to his mansion and has his butler make him tea, and he sleeps on a pile of money. Peter just constantly, he would be late. Girlfriends would ditch him. Aunt May's dying in the hospital. He was paying real world prices like you and I would do. Every time he tried to do the right thing, the universe kicked him in the ass for it, and he did the right thing anyways. And I really always admired that and loved that about him, that he was the guy that did the right thing, even though his life was so far from perfect.
So what kind of birthday gift would you have given Spider-Man?
What kind of birthday gift would I give Spider-Man? I'm trying to think of things that Peter needs. He's a scientific genius. He's I don't know, just a kidney for Aunt May, I guess. That woman's dying. She's been dying for 50, 60 years.
So the birthday gift would have been for Aunt May.
Yeah, well, hell, just one thing off his plate.
What are you watching now as far as TV shows? Like, whether you're watching it live or something it's on the DVR. What kind of shows are you watching?
I'm just trying to think. We just finished up. I mean, you're hitting me right when most of the shows are just done. We just watched season finale of Flash. We watched Supergirl. It was a little uneven, but there's something there. I like Melissa Benoist as Supergirl, and I think Callista Flockhart is awesome as Cat Grant. So, just tweak it a little bit, get her over with her friends in a better environment at the CW, and I think she'll do well. I'm trying to think of the stuff that we're watching right now. We're watching Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Nobody's watching this show. It is absolutely fucking hilarious. And I read a couple reviews on it that said it was hilarious, and I went and got it. And it's this bizarro musical. She's completely insane. She is a woman that gets promoted to be a partner in a law firm in New York, making $500,000 a year. She has a panic attack because she doesn't think this is what her life's supposed to be, runs out of the building, and a guy she dated in junior high walks by, and she decides, I'm going to marry that guy, and follows him to California and moves to West Covina, California. Just like this shit strip mall suburb of LA. Yeah, it's 2 hours from the ocean. Well, 4 in traffic. That's it. And she drops everything in her life to pursue this guy, and she's clearly insane, and everybody recognizes it but her. And they break into song all the time for no reason. It's very, very funny.
Well, okay, so here's a hypothetical for you. Let's say the Flash loses his powers, which he did recently.
That was the dumbest episode ever, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so he loses his powers, and he has to have a form of transportation. Yeah. Would he prefer Kit? Would he prefer Airwolf? Or would he prefer Street Hawk?
What was the last one?
Street Hawk.
Street Hawk. Which one
was Street
Basically,
Hawk?
Street Hawk was Kit as a motorcycle.
Oh, was that the one from with Jack Black and?
No, it was Rex. It was Rex Harrison.
No, this is like 80s. This is like 80s. What kind of nerd are you? Dang
I
it!
can't remember this one. I'm doing the obscure pilot that never
George
got made.
Clooney was in that.
I'm doing the obscure pilot that never even made it to air. Did you ever see the Jack Black as an astronaut that has Owen Wilson as a talking motorcycle? Ben Stiller wrote the pilot. It was brilliant. Never got picked up. You can find it on the internet if you know where to look. It's awesome.
This one was in 1980 where everybody was trying to do something in a vehicle.
Heat, Vision, and Jack. That's the name of that pilot. You should go find it. It's hilarious. And then you could have thrown it in the list. Okay, so we're going to discard the one that I know nothing about. So we're down to Kit and Airwolf. I think he's going to be Kit. I think the ground-based speed is what the Flash is all about. I don't think he really wants to talk to the car, but he'd probably put up with it and think it's cool that they invented something like that. But I don't think flying is really the Flash's thing. He wants that low to the ground, racing along.
He would probably make it better somehow. Barry Allen's smart enough.
Yeah, Barry Allen's very smart. He could make it less annoying and judgmental. What a bitchy little car Kit was. And
you could have Gideon in there.
Yeah. And then his evil twin was Car,
Yep.
Knight automated roving robot. Goliath was the big indestructible truck that they fought a couple times.
Yep.
Yes.
You know, in Knight Rider, like the A-Team, when they built these, like, you know, they would like weld shit to a scooter and run around, run over bad guys. Nobody ever really thinks to go indoors. Just go indoors. Car can't get you there. You're fine. They were like, you need to go meet him on the highway. No, try a mall. A mall would be great.
Yeah, that's how you don't get bitten by jaws. You don't go in the
don't
water.
go in the water. Yeah, when you're fighting Kit, just get the hell off the road.
Yeah. Or fight them where you can make them go over speed bumps.
Yeah, just something to really bottom out that hurt the transmission a bit.
Your top three movies of all time.
Top 3 movies of all time. And again, this will be something that I'll rethink 80 times on the way home. Evil Dead 2.
Nice.
We'll just go with the cult camp classic.
Good.
Makes me laugh every time. It has just enough horror in it to make you a little edgy at times too.
Yeah.
It's really funny. It's unique. There aren't very many movies like it.
Did you see the TV show?
Yeah, I did. It's very good.
Yeah, love it.
I've interviewed Bruce Campbell twice. He's an awesome guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We did an Evil Dead. Podcast.
Yeah. Evil Dead 2. The first one is genuinely disturbing. It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
And the sequel has a ton of one-liners. If you're just in it for the one-liners, Army of Darkness is good, but it's missing something that
it's not as scary.
Not as scary. Definitely not as scary.
Yeah, not as scary.
Although it did throw in tits for no reason. There's just it's not you're watching the movie and all of a sudden 2 topless women walk by. I'm like, we're so close to letting my girls watch this movie. Why is that in there?
You have to show them the USA Network version.
Yeah, the cleaned up version.
There you go.
Okay, we'll do a couple more. Blade Runner, Ridley Scott directing, Harrison Ford as a replicant.
We'll see a sequel soon.
Yeah, which you guys have your Ghostbusters. You're not wanting to reboot. I'm like, Blade Runner does not need a sequel, but it's a movie that the ending is ambivalent on purpose. You drive off and you're thinking, is he a robot or a real person? We don't know, and that's part of it. And they're like, well, we're throwing him back in there. I'm like, no, you just shouldn't do that. I don't want to know what happens next because that's part of what makes the movie good. But we're getting it, and maybe we'll see what happens. Maybe it'll be good, but I'm not hopeful. Blade Runner, I love film noir. I love old. I'll watch Double Indemnity with Fred McMurray or some of these like 40s movies like Maltese Falcon or anything with Humphrey Bogart playing a hard-boiled detective. And that was a modern updating of it. In fact, a far updating because they set one of those film noir movies in the future. It's one of my favorite science fiction authors. Wrote the original book. Philip K. Dick, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? It's brilliantly shot. The world that they created for that movie, you could throw it in a movie today. The visuals are so amazing. It does not look like it was shot back then. It looks like
it's great.
It was groundbreaking.
Awesome.
And he created the world that everybody after him uses for the future. Up until then, it was all kind of spaceships and everything.
Wasn't Akira affected by that too?
Yeah, it's the whole idea that the future was going to be overcrowded, miserable, pollution, and we're all stacked on top of each other. That we're not going to create the Jetsons utopia that we're going to have. That all our big problems aren't going to go away just because we have more crap in technology. And then the last one I'll do Brazil. Terry Gilliam from Monty Python, directing Jonathan Pryce. It's a science fiction.
That's a good one.
Science fiction fantasy. It's interesting. Both Brazil and Blade Runner are ones that the studios hated and mutilated the ending of the movie, trying to tack a happy ending on it. And much later, you were able to get director's cuts where they actually restored it and gave you the depressing ending that I prefer. So it's one of the blackest of black comedies. It has a lot of the Monty Python guys show up here and there in it. Bob Hoskins as a gorilla plumber in the middle of the movie. It's about bureaucracy that kills people, and it's really a dark comedy and a great movie that not enough people have seen. It's really innovative visually.
Those are definitely 3. Other than Blade Runner, those are good, unique top 3 answers.
Really unique, very unique. Probably the best unique ones we've gotten so far. Yeah.
So
those are great.
So we always like to give our guests interviewing a parting gift.
Transformers 2, the second one, they really upped the.
You couldn't even say that with a straight face.
And I couldn't. I was like, "It's a moon, Dark Side of the Moon." No, that's the.
I don't even know which one it is. Doesn't matter. They all suck. They all suck. Somebody needs to like Joss Whedon or somebody big like needs to do like GoBots and just destroy Transformers.
Yeah.
Even though growing up I preferred Transformers,
Yeah.
but I'm so sick of the Michael Bay Transformers that I would right now the only chance I have to see a good Transformer movie is somebody please go make GoBots.
Yeah, I'm sure they're all over that.
Or Voltron or something.
Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's really no reason for these movies to get made. It's just people that want to turn off their brains and watch shit explode for a couple
I
hours.
can't turn off my brain. I pay more attention to Transformers movies because I'm like, well, that's stupid. Wait, why did he just do that? That doesn't make any sense.
The one I was really bummed in with like that was Prometheus, because I love the original
Oh,
Alien
yeah,
and Aliens.
yeah.
And I was saying, Ridley Scott's back, who did Blade Runner, one of my all-time favorites, and I love Alien, which he also did. And there was just, it was shot beautifully. The acting was really good, but there were just so many dumb things that happened in that movie.
Yeah, exactly.
It just, I'm like, if they just made the people in the movie act smarter, like real human beings, that would have, it could have worked. And the fact that they were so boneheaded, the whole film really sank it.
Yeah, I mean, the
terrible.
only thing that was missing was like the gratuitous nudity shower scene in that movie.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it was. I don't think it was exploitative. I just think the script had
No,
problems.
no,
It
I'm
was-
not saying it was exploitive. I'm just saying like stupid, dumb things you do in movies,
Oh,
in the,
Well,
the slasher movies.
I'm saying it's a really well made film based on a bad script. That's
Yeah.
really what it is. Hey, I'm terrified of this place. Let's sleep in the creepy room with all the ooze and then pet the giant penis monster that comes out of it. I'm like, yeah, that was a good idea. Oh, and he's the guy that had all the maps. Remember, he had the robot that mapped the whole place. He knew exactly where he was and got lost.
Yeah, exactly. So we like to give our guests that are interviewing a parting gift, and
Sure.
Because I was at your panel, I knew that Wonder Woman was one of your all-time favorite characters.
Yes.
So when you had actually said yes to this interview, what was it, like 3 months ago? About there?
Something like that.
Something like 3 months ago. It took us that long to make this, like, get this gift for you. To
wow.
make this gift, it took 3 months. And because we had a really hard time putting it together.
Okay.
Really difficult time putting this thing together.
If it's a love doll, I can't take that home.
No. We kind of misplaced some pieces and had a really hard time finding these pieces and putting it together. So what we'd like to give you is a certified, Chew approved, one of a kind Wonder Woman invisible jet.
Awesome.
What we'd like to do is for you to we ask all of our guests to explain what you're looking at right
It
now.
has a Sue Storm action figure too. Cool. I mean, it's a little cross continuity, but I like it.
So if you could describe what you're looking at right now.
Yeah, okay. We're working radio, not television. We have a display case, clear, transparent display case. We have mounting hooks to hook the 3 points of the jet, the front tire and the 2 rear. And, of course, you can't see the jet. I assume it's in there because I've been told so, but it's invisible.
It's there. It's there. Trust us.
And it has a plaque on the front of it that tells you that that it's the invisible jet. So you make sure you know which invisible property you're looking at. So that's very awesome. My kids are going to think that's hilarious.
So John,
we actually got this 3 months ago. Vic just found it today.
Oh,
So
see, good timing.
he couldn't see it.
That's why I kept canceling on you, not because I went into the hospital for surgery. It's because I wanted you to have time to get the invisible jet just right.
painting it was a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I imagine.
So John, thank you so much for doing this.
it
I
was a pleasure,
appreciate
guys.
the time that you're taking out of your day to do this. I'm glad we got a little bit longer than we would have had if you had done it there, because this is important to us. The discussion.
Absolutely.
It's important to me for my girls,
Right.
but also the diversity as well, because they're girls and they're not white. So so thanks for taking the time, and I really appreciate what you're doing for the culture out there.
It's great, and it's I'm glad that this has kind of given me a vehicle to say these things, because as a dude and as a white dude, there's not always a lot you can say. It's just, I'm sorry, my people have fucked up for 200 years. I don't know what to do about it, but sorry about that. That's sometimes how you feel. It's like, but having 2 daughters allows me to talk about, feminist issues a little bit. And then, just as the community has grown and people were asking me, they're saying, are you going to talk about
things like Ghost in the Shell or the lack of representation for actors of color. And I wrestled with it for a while because I didn't want to come across as some white guy, trying to tell people what to think about race issues, because that's a really dangerous place to be. But it's just too important to not talk about. And, so
absolutely,
you got to be willing to get out there and stick your foot in it every now and then and say something that could be misinterpreted otherwise nobody's talking about it, which is what has been happening and what doesn't work. So it's important to have those conversations.
Thanks again, John. BJ, anything?
Thanks, John. That was John Marcotte of the website is heroicgirls.com. And thank you very much for being here.
Oh, no problem. Can I put my pants on now?
Yeah, please do. Zip that sucker right up.
I don't know how podcasts work, but
all right. Thanks again, John.
Thanks, John.